I want to thank the grace of heaven, virtue of enlightening masters, mercy of transmitters, and confidence placed by our lecturers and all of you for this opportunity to learn to explain and introduce to you the doctrine of the mean. Actually, this is the first time we are talking about this book, this one of the 4 classics. So this is not a continuation from a previous lecture. Okay. It's good to have you all here again in this class. Actually, earlier I experienced some kind of technical, glitches. And at that time, I wasn't able to, the slides will not show the images. But fortunately, I was able to import the pictures again. So now you are looking at the cover page of my presentation tonight. And you can probably guess who is that statue, right? That's Confucius. And the temple that you saw, the colorful temple that you see here, is the Confucius Temple of Confucius in his hometown in Shanqifu of Shandong Province. So one day when you have a chance to visit the mainland China, and if you get extra time, maybe you want to stop by the Temple of Confucius. I'm sure it's going to be a very spiritual trip. Okay. Here's my class agenda. First of all, I'm going to talk about the author of the book and how this book was created, or this teaching was created. And I'm going to also interpret the title, because the title, at some point, if a person is not very familiar with the Confucianism or his classics, it could be misleading, or some people have come up with wrong interpretation. And then I go through the main themes of the book. Yeah, tonight we're going to mainly focus on the first chapter, but I think it's also important to know what the whole book talks about in general. This way, we can relate this first chapter with the other sections or other chapters of the book. And I think it will also enhance our understanding of the first chapter. Actually, I don't think we are going to talk about, this is wrong. It's significance of great learning. So apparently I copied some of the slides, and I forgot to delete that. Sorry about that. Okay, so the author of the Doctrine of the Mean is ZhiShan. Are you familiar with him? He's one of the 4 sages under Confucius, and he happens to be the grandson of Confucius. Okay. Well, there's some people who said the scholars of the Qin and the Han Dynasty also contributed to this book. Okay, the reason ZhiShan, the grandson of Confucius, composed this book is he was able to read a lot of the quotes, adages, or some of the very words of wisdom from Confucius. And then in his time, the world was not as ideal as he would want to be, or his grandfather wanted to be. And so he hoped by composing this book, he would be able to keep or to pass on the teachings of his grandfather, and that he's going to help with the world's harmony, or with propagating the Tao, or the truth, okay, that his grandfather was always trying to propagate in his time. Okay, so that's why we have this book. In this book, the Doctrine of the Mean was originally a chapter in the Book of Rites. Does it sound familiar? Remember, we talked about the Great Learning. It was also a chapter from the Book of Rites. And this Doctrine of the Mean is originally chapter 31 of the Book of Rites. So this book, actually, together with the Great Learning, they made the most splendid part of the Book of Rites with his very, well-rounded arguments, statements on the significance of rites and, various learnings. Okay, but as the Great Learning, it's also with this Doctrine of the Mean, it wasn't as profound or prominent in ZhiShan's time. It was in Song Dynasty when the scholars of the Neo-Confucianism really found the jewels, the creams in this book. And so they really advocated or promoted the book and so gave the book the prominence. Okay, now this is one of the 4 books. Okay, we talk about the 4 books, right? There's the Great Learning, the Analects, the Doctrine of the Man, and then the Measures, right? And we went through the Great Learning earlier this year. The Great Learning sets the objectives of our life. But this Doctrine of Man, it also talked about that, but actually goes deeper into the truth of the universe. And it really explores the relationship between heaven and earth and human, and how this universal truth, the Tao, connects human beings and heaven and earth. Okay, there are 4 sections and 33 chapters in the book. In this book, well, here are just a very brief introduction of the structure of the book. Hopefully someday we can also plan another class to talk about other chapters, or those are the like commentary chapters of the Doctrine of Mean, because they are also very, very precious teachings in there. Okay, now chapter 1, which is what we are talking about tonight, is the main thing. It's like it corresponds with the 3 objectives of the Great Learning. They're also, the very first 3 sentences kind of set a tone. It lets us know the purpose or the objectives or the main theme of the book, from the onset. Okay, and if any one of you has read this book, you will realize that it starts with heaven. The line starts with heaven, and then it brings in human as the practitioner or spokesman of the Tao. So it's like from the one, the Tao, or the universal truth, and then to people and maybe in everything under the sun. Okay, so from 1 to myriad. And so chapter 1 and 19 talks about the importance of the Doctrine of the Mean. Mean here meaning equilibrium or the balance, okay, moderation, or in Aristotle's language. Aristotle has a book on ethics and morality, and he talks about the golden mean too. Wonder if he's also underly influenced or inspired by the Confucianist, 4 books. And then chapter 20 is like a chapter of transition. It kind of follows the lead of the first 19 chapters, but then it's going to bring up the topic of sincerity. In this chapter 20, it also talks about governance, and it talks about the 5 cardinal relationships and 3 supreme virtue. So it's also a very, I think, valuable paragraph or chapter. Okay, in the future, if we have time, we can go through that. And then from chapter 21 to chapter 33, it becomes more philosophical. And so it talks about sincerity. Sincerity, we know it's a very important virtue. It's like almost like, the core of the 5, we talk about the 5 constant virtue. Okay, it's the core, at the core of the constant virtues. And so from chapter 21, it talks about sincerity from different aspects, different perspectives. And lastly, chapter 33, which is the ending or the conclusion of the book, it starts with the virtue of a noble man, okay, but then it ends up in virtue of heaven, in which it says, when heaven is for nurturing, everything under the heaven, it does not like boast itself. It just do it without any motive, and it just do it without making any any sound or any noises. Okay, all right. So this is the structure of the doctrine of the mean. Okay, let's talk about the meaning of the title. The title is called 中庸. Okay, the first one here, 中, the Chinese character means in the middle. Okay, so in the context, in the special context, this 中 means what? It can mean proper, can mean appropriate, and of course it means positive. Okay, it's, zhong is also like in the very center of something. Okay, now, for example, the kernel of a seed is called ren. Okay, the kernel which is in the core, in the very center of the seed. In Chinese, it's called ren, and this ren happens to mean benevolence. Okay, so Chinese words really has a lot of implication and significant meanings. Okay, so this 中 can also mean unbiased or impartial when it comes to how we treat people, how we treat things, like fair and square. It's the proper path. Okay, but this, we talk about that. This middle does not mean like from a scale from 0 to 10, it does not necessarily fall like on 5. Okay, it really varies from scenario to scenario, from individual to individual, from situation to situation. Okay, it's just the appropriate middle moderation. Okay, and then Yong, it means constant and unchanging. Okay, so 中庸 together is talking about the middle path, and avoiding the extremes. It's just the appropriate degree, the appropriate level of things, or maybe our attitude, our mentality, our thoughts, our actions. Okay. I earlier talked about some misunderstanding of the 中庸. Some people will say, it's like you don't have to be outstanding, okay? You can be just mediocre, okay? Ordinary, okay? It can also, some people will say, oh, when you're dealing with maybe a conflict between people, they say, oh, 中庸一点吧. It means what? You can mediate at the sacrifice principle, or you are being a fence sitter, okay? Try to placate, both sides, but that's not right. That's not what ZhiShan or the Confucianists mean when we talk about the 中庸, okay? So as I said here, it's about finding a path that extreme avoid extremes. Okay, extremes means the other sides, the two sides. On one side is excess, the other side is deficiency. Any virtue, any good things, when they go to extremes, can become vices. Okay, as you see this picture here, okay, courage when it goes to both extremes are not good. Okay, it become on one side deficiency, it's right cowardice, timidness, right? On the other side is recklessness or ruthlessness. That both of them are not desirable. Okay, or when you talk, sometimes we talk about aspiration, right? People sometimes may be over ambitious, and when they cannot, because they're over ambitious and this is not practical, and when they don't attain their goal, they will become so upset. Okay, that's not desirable. Or some people does not have goal. They will just follow what other people are doing, or they even just like a phrase that the Chinese people often say in the past few years, that you just lie flat. You don't do anything. You just become lazy because knowing, oh, I'm not able to achieve my goal. Why bother to make any efforts? Okay, so these are not good. Okay, now here is a picture of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Okay, this is in the Forbidden City of in Beijing. Okay, and as we know, Forbidden City is the imperial palace of the Qing dynasty. So we know Qing dynasty, they are not really the emperors of the Qing dynasty. They were not really Han nationality, but they found a lot of value in the culture and traditions and visions of the Han dynasty. And what you can see here, the board actually talks about the doctrine of the mean. Okay, it says 允之绝中, and these are the 4 words that Emperor Yao passed on to Emperor Sun when he passed the throne to him. When Emperor Yao passed the throne to Emperor Shun, okay, we know it's a non-hereditary, what do you call succession, right? He did not pass the throne to his own son because his own son was not virtuous. Okay, so he set a very good model here. But then when Emperor Sun passed on his the throne, the crown to Emperor Yao, okay, he expand his we say motto or his teachings, okay, to this here. There are 16 words in Chinese, okay? And he said the human heart is perilous. That we all agree, right? Because of all this, defilements through the reincarnation. And then the way of heaven is subtle. The heaven does not try to interfere, right? It just that things just go there, flow, without any intervention. So we, Emperor Yao, Emperor Sun told Emperor Yu that we have to be earnest and single-minded. Okay, and then hold fast to the golden mean. So hold fast to the golden mean is 允直觉中. Okay, traditional Chinese, you have to read from right to left. Okay, not from left to right as we do now. Okay, so the golden mean, okay, or the moderation or the proper path has been the teaching of the emperors in ancient China, and really this has helped them significantly in their governance of the country. Okay, so actually in China we have a saying, 尧天顺日. Okay, it means the days of Yao and Shun. It means at that time, the country was in very was in pristine condition, even the weather was very favorable. Always when you need sun, there's sunshine. When you need rain, then there's the precipitation. And people were living in great harmony. And so 姚天顺 was used to refer to any favorable circumstances. Okay. So from this example, we know the importance of golden mean in not only the governing of a country, but also like in any kind of organization or in any kind of relationship or in our own personal cultivation. Let me just share with you one more detail about this, the hall. This hall is like it's like the Oval Office now of the USA. But in the past, this is where the emperor received his ministers, his officials, listen to their reports, make decisions. So this is a very important place. And you see how what kind of regards the emperors of Qing dynasty had for this golden mean. Okay, so the mean or the 中庸 really advocates the moderation with rectitude and sincerity as the path to moral self-cultivation and a well-ordered society. It also emphasized the need to maintain balance and equilibrium in one's thoughts and actions. So it's not just the outward, conducts. It actually starts with the mind, with our consciousness. But remember, this is not it's not a set of rigid rules, like it has to be this, either this or that. Okay. No, it's actually just a framework for ethical, behavior, decision making. So it's like a guideline. Okay. So as it says here, it encourages individual to cultivate virtues and develop a sense of what is appropriate in various circumstances. Okay. And this can vary from scenario to scenario, from individual to individual. Depends on what kind of situation we are in, what occasions, and who we are dealing with. So this means it can be different, right? Maybe in some circumstances, if we have to express that in number, it can be a 4, but in other situation, it can be a 6 or even 7. I hope I make myself understood. Okay, now the gist and the main theme of the book. The recurring theme is, this equilibrium, the middle path, and moderation. Okay, yeah, that's what we can try to also apply in our life, in our work, in our cultivation. Okay, and of course the self-cultivation. And it talks about discretion and solitude, which is also talk in great detail in the first chapter. It also about, be strict with oneself if miss the bullseye, or he reproaches when something happens, when we fail or when something goes wrong, we don't point fingers at others. Rather, we try to reflect on ourselves and find a course or the source of the problem within ourselves. Okay. And another important recurring thing, which from chapter 21 to 33 talks in great length, is the sincerity. Okay. It also talks about how we can achieve the true learning. Okay, the true learning. And then there is the chapter 20 talks about the governing of the country. So there are 2 points I just want to briefly mention. Try to find and gather the able and virtuous people. Okay, that's that kind of guarantee, the success or the attainment of your goals. And then the 9 gallons, it not only talk about how we try to appreciate, to recognize the talented people. Okay, it also talk about reciprocity. How we should just like the golden rule, right? The golden rule. If you don't want other people to treat this way, then you don't treat other people that way. Okay. And it also talk about, how we should treat people from different trades, how we should go along with foreign countries. So this is called the 9 canons of the governance of a country. So in general, the very important aspect of the doctrine of being talks about is placid and moderate. Placid and moderate. Okay, we go about talk about them in detail. Now here's chapter 1. Okay, I'm going to just read them. Actually, I did a better version of this. Kind of combine different translations and come up with what I think maybe the idealist. But somehow, when I was doing the presentation, I was preparing the slides, I deleted that one. So at the last minute, I have to redo it. So okay, now what heaven confers is called nature. Accordance with this nature is called the Tao. Some people translate it. I think there's uh, Confucianist scholar. Uh, his last name is Miller. Translate as the way. But somehow I think we are all very familiar with the Tao, and I think it's also very expressive, very descriptive. So I prefer to use this word, the Tao. And then cultivating the Tao is called education or transformation. That which is called Tao cannot be separated from for an instant. What can be separated from is not the Tao. Therefore, the nobleman is cautious in the place where he's not seen. So it means beyond anyone's sights, and apprehensive in the place where he's not heard. Again, this is like beyond anyone's hearing. So it means when one is in privacy, or when one is alone, or in the words of the great learning, one is in a dark room. Okay, there's no one else and there's no light. So it's like a lot of things can be hidden, but we'll see if that's true. Okay, nothing is more visible than the hidden, and nothing is more apparent than the subtle. Therefore, the nobleman is circumspect when he's alone. Okay, so see, these 2 paragraphs both talk about we call discretion in privacy. Okay. And this idea was also mentioned or also written in the Great Learning. I don't know if you remember those lines. Okay, now the last paragraph of the first chapter. Feelings such as joy, anger, sorrow, and pleasure are in the state of the me when they have not yet arisen, which means they are not expressed, they're not let out. When they arise to the appropriate degree, it's called harmony. Okay, here the appropriate degree, it's not just a number, it also implies, it's right to it is right to the morality or the ethical standards. Okay, the mean is the great root or the fundament of all under heaven. The harmony is the supreme Tao or the principle of everything under heaven. When the mean and harmony are actualized or achieved, heaven and earth are in their proper position. Okay. They are in where they should be, okay? And the mirror things. So mirror things are nourished. Here it talks about, all sentient beings. It talks about everything between heaven and earth, plants, water, rivers, mountains, everything between heaven and earth. Okay, so this is a quick look at what the first chapter talk about. And then now I'm going to go line after line and try to present a clearer picture. Okay. Okay. Now, the first one. Wait, I hope I did not. Okay. So what heaven confers is called nature. Okay. This actually talks about our essence, our true self, okay? And it kind of corresponds to Buddha because Buddha has that all perfect, right? All perfect virtue, okay? Yeah. Talking about have you ever heard of the Trinity of the Triad of Avatamsaka? Okay, so Buddha here is talks about everything's, quintessence, everything's all perfect. Okay. Now here, the heaven here, it means the absolute heaven. It's not just the heaven that we see or the sky, right? Or the temporal heaven. It's the absolute heaven. It's where Buddha's saints and sages lived. And this is our original hometown, right? Okay. Now, before the creation of heaven and earth, all the myriad things, including human beings, Tao already existed, right? Okay, but after Tao exists, heaven and earth and all this, everything between heaven and earth were created. Then Tao is with all these things, right? So we talk about this when we have to expound the Tao to whoever is going to receive the Tao. When Tao is related to, all kind of materials, in the universe, then it's physics, right? When it talks about the earth, it's geography. When it talk about what happened in heaven, it's astronomy. There's also chemistry, mathematics, right? But when Tao relates to human, it's our Buddha nature. Okay, now, so when it says the heaven confer us, it's like heaven's mandate to us, right? So it gives us this Buddha nature. And this actually comes our spiritual mother in the absolute heaven, what we call Lao Mu in Chinese, right? Okay, so just like senior transmitter Jen often talk about, he talks about a lot of, three treasures, right? Okay, he said, we have this one, 一性二命. 一性, okay, means our Buddha nature. 二命, okay, it can mean 天命, heaven's mandate. And later on, we are going. He also talk about, the other is our mission, our task, our assignment in this life that our Heavenly Mother gives us. Okay, now our Buddha nature is originally very pure. Okay, if you look at this lines from in italics, do you recognize who said that? What a wonder! Our own nature is originally pure. Our own nature is originally without. It's there's neither birth nor annihilation or birth and death. There's no has no death and no birth, right? And our nature is originally full and complete. It's not lacking anything. It's just right? And our own nature is originally unwavering, okay? And it can create all things, or it can give rise to all kinds of, dharmas, truth, wisdom, okay? So this is what the sixth patriarch said after well, I guess, he received the blessing and he received the the passing of the lineage from the fifth patriarch, and that's what he said. So we know that he had cultivated so well in previous life. So as soon as he heard, the teaching of the Diamond Sutra from the fifth patriarch, he became awakened to his Buddha nature, I would say to the treasure. Okay. And so this is the ideal, right? The ideal state. But not everyone achieve that level. Okay. So that's why we are going to have to, cultivate, and that's what I will talk about later. Okay. Yeah. So he also said after he received the bow and the rope, meaning the lineage transmission from the fifth patriarch, and at that time the circumstances were not good for the sixth patriarch to the transmission of the lineage to him was not to be broadcast. It has to be like in well, they still should keep it as a secret because there were other people that are vying for that bow and rope, and so the fifth patriarch was going to roll a bow and ferry the sixth patriot across to the other shore. And guess what he said? Okay, he said, when I'm not awakened to my Buddha nature, then I need a master to ferry me. But now I am awakened to my Buddha nature. I can ferry myself. So of course this has, it's a pun. It has two meanings. Ferry is not just, going across to the other shore. It's also meaning enlightenment. Okay. So all of us here have been very fortunate to receive the Tao, okay, because of the special time, in this Y era. In the past, Tao was only, transmitted to one individual and over a, large span of time. But now, if we have, can prove ourselves, we are worthy of the Tao, and we have, the introducer and the guarantor who brought us to receive the Tao, then we can, receive the blessing. But in the past, it wasn't like this, okay? So we have to recognize how precious and how fortunate we are to have, received this Tao transmission. This is a saying from, virtual people in the past. Is that even if we read through the Diamond Sutra or the mantra of great mercy or great compassion, it means even we can recite the sutras forward and backward, okay? We will still be caught up in cycle of reincarnation if we do not get the point transmission from an enlightened master. Because, of the karma, okay? The karma, universal rule of karma. Planting seeds of beans, we will naturally harvest beans. And planting seeds of melons, we harvest melon. Understand what that says, right? Yeah, because we have gone through so many, 60,000 years of reincarnation, and we really have acquired some undesirable qualities and habits, or we did something not so good. So we already had some karmas there. And before we receive the Tao, we may not be so aware of the causality, right? And we might continue to do things that were not good. But after we have received this Tao, okay, and we come to all these classes aiming to further awakening us or guiding us in try to bringing up, the wisdom that's all the learning that's already within us. Now we know, okay, that we should not be committing any karma, any bad karma or any bad deeds. Okay. Then there's the hope that we can, go back to the absolute heaven. Okay, so this is the first line. Now, second is it says in the other translation, accordance with the Tao, with the nature is called the Tao. Okay, so it's actually following accordance that whatever we do is in conformity. Okay, our actions always follow this the principle of this nature, then that's called Tao, and that's the mean. Okay, that's the mean. That's the proper path. Okay, yeah. So remember, I talked about the Trinity of Avakamsata. It kind of corresponds with the Manjushri Buddha because it's the Buddha of wisdom. Okay, so when we receive the Tao, we are supposedly, awaken to our Buddha nature, to our wisdom. And so we know what to do and what not to do. Okay. Now, so a perfect example is Sixth Peter. After he received the transmission, he said a lot of enlightening words, right? As I shared with you earlier. Okay. Okay, so we have received the Tao, but are we really following the Tao 24/7? Okay, do we act upon the principles 100% of the time, or everything? Are we perfect without any faults? I guess most of us not. Some might be better than the other, but we are not perfect. Okay, yeah. So that's why it's going to lead up to the third line, which is cultivating the Tao. Okay, and at this part, I want to mention, the mission. Okay, our mission is to manifest our inherent virtue. Okay, and make a transformation inside out ourselves. In Chinese, it means 脱胎换骨. It's like we change our blood and bones, all together. So we are like an entire new person. Okay, that's towards ourselves, right? And then just like the three objectives of the great learning, we have to help transform others and transform the world. Okay, because only when we do this, then we are able to establish merits and virtue. Okay, and this will help us offset our karma, and then we can talk about transcend samsara. Samsara meaning reincarnation. I'm sure you all know that now. Okay, now having talked about the necessity for us all to cultivate, because we are not perfect and we have really accumulated, or we have a lot of unwanted deposit in our nature, in our consciousness. Okay, so we have to cultivate the Tao. So in this, it kind of corresponds with the Samantabhadra Buddha. Okay, in Chinese, is Pu Xian Pusa. He's the Bodhisattva of universal virtue and compassionate action. Okay, now this third is about us living the Tao. We are practicing the Tao. We are following, the Tao's principle in all we do. Okay. Yeah, because although we were born with this inherent wisdom, inherent virtue, but through tens of thousands years of reincarnation, we gradually lose some of the good virtues, but acquire some of the undesirable qualities. For example, the three poisons, and all kinds of attachments. And they're all stored in our eighth consciousness, right? The alaya. So these are like seeds for our reincarnation and for our further sufferings, right? Okay. So we have this inherent Buddha nature, or the true self in us, but through this incarnation, we have this deposit, right? And this will give us the qi bin, which is the second, or the third bullet points, which means the inherent disposition that we accumulated through past lives. Just like there's a sutra, 3-word sutra. It says, 人之初，性本善，性相近，习相远. We all have this, true, the good true self, but because of the accumulation, and of course, this disposition again vary from person to person. Okay, so will give us very different disposition. Okay. That's why, sometimes we saw some people, they're naturally very kind, but there are people who are just very, mean, they're just habitually lying or cheating or bullying, all kinds of vices, bad habits. Okay, so this is from like our previous lives. And the last one is habits from this life. Okay, after we were born, we were, also under a lot of exposure and influence. And we pick up something good, but we also acquire something bad. Okay, yeah, so we're talking about the desires for materials, and like, sensory pleasure. You've probably have heard about the 地狱五条根, which is the 5 desires. Okay, I think we'll talk about that later. Yeah, so because of this, we are like, spellbound by all these dispositions and habits. Okay. So the 5 desires talks about in Chinese is 财色名食睡财. The first one, on the very first one is 财, which means fortune or wealth. And then second one is 色. Okay, it can be lust. Okay, and then 名 fame. Okay, that's another desire. The fourth one is food. Okay, what we eat. And the last one is 睡. Okay, now in Buddhism, it says if we still have any one of this, then we will be subject to reincarnation. Okay, yeah. Now, so we need to get rid of all this disposition and attachment, so we don't have to reincarnate. And again, endure life's 8 suffering. We talk about that, right, in the during Dharma class, in the true meaning of life, right? That's just kind of review. Okay, there's the birth, the aging, sickness, death, unable to satisfy desires, not getting what we want, having to separate. I'm sorry, it should be separate, or having to part with our loved ones. Okay, encountering those we dislike, or having to work with, or maybe happen to have someone in our family that we don't like. And the last one is suffering due to the 5 rampant scandals. The 5 rampant scandals. It's, the form, sensation, thought, action, and consciousness. Okay, this was also talked about in the Heart Sutra. Okay, so all of them is going to give us a lot of hardship. Okay, and if we are still reincarnating, we are still in this samsara, then we are subject to all this suffering. But there's also a saying, right? Here it says the power of Buddha cannot change karma. Okay, it cannot go against karma. And we have we have stories about that. Remember, we talked about that during the talent class, I believe. Okay, yeah, even Buddha cannot interfere karma. It just had to, play out. However, the karmic force cannot take the upper hand if we have adamant vows. Okay, the Chinese is more parallel. It says 佛力不抵业力，但是业力呢不抵愿力. So it means what? If we make vows and we fulfill them, then we are able to offset the karma. We are able to turn things around. Okay, and even when we make vows and we actually try to fulfill them, by establishing merits and virtues, then those are our bargaining powers with our karmic debtors. And even like Holy Teacher said, you have to have some merits so I can, bargain with your karmic debtors. Okay, now talking about the next line. Okay, it says Tao cannot be separated from for an instant. In other words, it is that one cannot part with Tao. We cannot part with Tao for even an instant and a second. Okay, if something can be separated for an instant, then it is not Tao. Okay, now, so Tao is omnipresent, it's everywhere, it's any time. If there's a principle that works at one time and doesn't work at another time, that's not Tao, that's not a truth. Okay, and again, here, Tao is equal to our Buddha nature. Remember what the sixth PeiDe said. It's what? Our Buddha nature is it's all four. It does not need anything else. It's complete, right? It can also, it's unwavering. It's full of wisdom, and it can give rise to all kinds of dharmas. It can create all kinds of things, okay? As long as this is the true Tao, then you can say it's Almighty. It is Almighty. Okay, so if we really act upon our Buddha nature, okay, then we are having our best guardian, our guardian of protection with us, right? It's our best gift from the heaven. Okay, so we really need to keep it, hold on to it, and act upon it. Okay, yeah. And in China, there's a saying is 顺道者昌，逆道者亡, which means going along the Tao, one prospers. Going against the Tao, then one perishes. Okay, I'm going to show you a story about a boy. Okay, he got to be 20 and he wanted a motorcycle. So his mother went to one of the temples, not necessarily our temple, our type of temple, and asked the deity, they sometimes would, burn an incense, talk to the, saints there and ask if her son could buy a motorcycle. And, the deity or the saint approved it, okay? But guess what happened? The son got into an accident and he got himself very seriously hurt. So the mom was very furious, and she blamed this on the deity. So she went to that temple again and complained to the deity. Guess what? The deity said, yeah, your son could ride a bicycle, but it doesn't mean that he could ride at a speed of 120 miles per hour, because that's not the traffic regulation. That's not going to guarantee his safety. When he is doing so fast, even his protection angels cannot catch up with him. Okay, so when a person is not living in a Tao and something happened, who could he blame? Right? Only himself. Right? Okay. And then this is the last one is from the Great Learning. I believe it's chapter 10. This is a book talking all the book of Kangao, okay, talks about the monarchs, emperors. And one of the lines says, heaven's mandate is not unchangeable. It means it's not there forever. If a monarch practices benevolence and impartiality, he keeps it, he has it, he well, I don't want to say possesses, but it's with him all the time. However, if he practices unkindness or cruelty or partiality or any bias, then he loses it. Okay, yeah, we have this Buddha nature with us, but if we don't honor it, we don't practice it, we don't apply it to our daily life, you know, we can almost guarantee that things may not go smooth. Uh, yeah, because we are not doing things in the right way. We are not acting upon the truth or the wisdom. Yeah. So this what this line talks about. Okay, it says here, thou there, sorry. This thou is unnecessary, is redundant here. So therefore, the nobleman is cautious in the place where he's not seen, and apprehensive in the place where he's not heard. Nothing is more visible than the hidden, and nothing is more apparent than the subtle. Therefore, the nobleman is circumspect when he's alone. Okay, so what does it talk about? It talk about, in Chinese means 慎独. It means we have to be very careful. We have to be even more cautious when we are when no eyes are watching us and no one is hearing us. Because usually when we are with people, we will be more careful, right? We might behave better. We might try to conceal some of our habits. We try to subdue some of the habits because we want to leave a good impression. Sometimes maybe for some very practical goals, like you are talking about, conducting some business with people. You may want a promotion, and then of course you try to show the best you, right? Okay. But when we are alone, when no one's watching, and for people who don't understand the Tao, who don't understand the universal truth, they would think, oh, no one's watching. No human eyes are watching. Then I could do whatever I want. That's very wrong. Okay. So far, we talk about like main, the main theme of the doctrine of the mean. Okay. The first one is our heavenly mandate, which are Buddha, it's our Buddha nature. And then we have to add upon this Buddha nature. Okay. And to follow this Buddha nature is to, transforming ourselves. It's okay that we are not perfect. We have bad habits. We have some even some maybe some karmic well, I'm trying to run, but if we recognize the truth, if we are in line with our Buddha nature, we recognize that our Buddha nature can help us change ourselves. That's what we need to do. And this book, The Doctrine of Man, it tells us how we should do it. And the proper path, the middle path, or the moderation is the key. It can be applied in all situations. Okay, I guess that's all for today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to finish the first chapter. If I say anything wrong, inaccurate or misguiding, I ask for Buddha's and Zen's forgiveness, and I ask the transmitters and lecturers and all of you to correct me. Thank you.